Okay.
Stand up. Hold it.
The garland ritual. Thank you. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin Itinamine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Desatadine Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare. This is part one of chapter 1 of Madhurya Kadambini. Madhurya Kadambini is a very nice book, short. In its printed form, it's pretty skinny, but it's really heavy because, oh, you have a copy. Look at this. Here's the skinny book. Look at this. Pretty skinny, huh? Ooh, but it's very full. And here you go. Give this back to her. The book was written by Vishwanath Chakrabarti Thakur. We heard yesterday about his biography, his life, and his writings and his contributions, etc. We'll hear it again today. There's a little repeat of this history. When he was a young Brahmin boy, he studied Sanskrit grammar until he was 12, and then he shifted his residence to another place. The other place was where he studied under a Sanskrit teacher that taught him Bhakti Shastri, that means devotional texts that explain the science of Bhakti Yoga. So that was from 12 until 16. And by the time he was 16, he'd already written 3 books. How old are you?
10.
10. You're about ready to start writing a book. 3 books. And all 3 of the books were commentaries on writings of Rupa Goswami. In Sanskrit, because he became a Sanskrit teacher, but he was a lover of Rupa Goswami from the get-go. Compliments of his teacher, and there's other things said about him we'll hear as we go forward. So, Madhurya Kadambini is an explanation of 2 verses from Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Those 2 verses are the 9 stages of bhakti, from Shraddha up to the stage of Prema, and in between, the 9 stages of bhakti. So Rupa Goswami outlines them, and we'll hear something more about it this evening. Here is where he is situated in our disciplic succession. This list is printed in Bhagavad Gita as it is. It's Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur's short list meaning there's the principal acharyas, as you see from number 26, Narottam Das Thakur. 4 generations later is Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. In the line of Narottam Das Thakur, we'll see the names of those acharyas shortly. And then following him, his Shiksha disciple Baladev Vidyabhusan. Some of you were with us yesterday. You received that Back to Godhead article written by Dayananda and Nandarani some years ago, outlining Baladev Vidyabhusan's role in our Gaudiya Vaishnava line, including his writing of commentary on Vedanta Sutra, because that was a challenge given to the Gaudiya Vaishnavas. You don't even have a commentary on Vedanta Sutra. We can't accept you. That's Ramanadi's saying. So the history is there. He, Baladev, was the Shiksha disciple of Vishwanath, and then some years later came Jagannath Das Babaji. There was an overlap of their lives by some 50 years, but that's okay. Jagannath Das Babaji lived a long time, 150 years, and then the rest, including Prabhupada. So we discussed this yesterday, or starting from Lakshmipati Tirtha, the spiritual master of Madhavendra Puri, etc. We went through this list yesterday. The books, you should have received a little document, a PDF, that has a list of his books. Here's a short list, some of them. Commentaries on Srimad Bhagavatam, very important. His commentary on Bhagavad Gita, a Kavi Karnapur's Ananda Vrindavan Champu. We heard a little bit about that yesterday. Rupa Goswami's writings, Vedanta Madhava, and Ujjvala Nilamani, his Rupa Goswami's Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Rupa Goswami's Laghu Bhagavatamrita, and the Chaitanya Charitamrita, complete commentary on Chaitanya Charitamrita. He's prolific. The number of books that he wrote is in the category of 40, but they're all very heavy. In the category of original works, here's a short list. Krishna Bhavanamrita Mahakavya. There's 3 other titles. Madhurya Kadambini is listed as his own writing, because it is, and a sequel to Aishvarya Kadambini. We heard a little bit of the history of Mantrartha Deepika. We heard a little bit about that yesterday. Mantrartha Deepika. So, Mantra Artha Deepika, the light on the benefits or the artha to be understood from Kam Gayatri, which is described to some extent in Chaitanya Charitamrita by Krishna Das Kaviraj. In this Aishvarya Kadambini, here's a little detail. Vishwanath's Aishvarya Kadambini is not the same as Baladev Vidyabhusan's Aishvarya Kadambini. Baladev describes the opulence, the Aishvarya of Krishna. And Vishwanath deals with the Achintya Bheda Bheda Tattva philosophy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. in Sanskrit. Aishwarya Kadambini. We heard a little bit yesterday about how he acquired the Radha Gokulananda deity, and he was very devoted to the deity from a dream of a Brahmana boy, young man, who was worshipping Gokulananda. And in a dream, the deity informed the Brahmana, go to Vrindavan, find a sadhu named Vishwanath, and request Vishwanath to worship me. I want to be worshipped by him. So we heard that in history. And he did worship Gokulananda after a little difficulty. Here's the altar. A very busy altar. It resembles the altar at Radha Damodar temple. There's many deities on the altar at Radha Damodar. There's a reason. One was the degree of devotion of Vishwanath. Plus, it was a safe place. It was he had an altar, because many of the Vaishnavas of his time, they just lived under trees. They didn't have a temple. They didn't have a safe place. So once there was a safe place, they entrusted their deities to the qualified Vishwanath. So it doesn't work with laser pointer. We'll do it like this. Whoops. There we go. Can you see that right here? Do you see Krishna's flute? That's Gokulananda's flute. There's Gokulananda in the center of the altar right here. And there's a Radha Vinod deities. Radha Vinod deities, that's here. Radha Vinod deities. And next to them, that's the deities of Lokanath Goswami. Over on this side, larger Radha Krishna deities. This is Vijay Govinda, and Baladev Vijayabasan's deities are here. Vijay Govinda, Vijay, victory. Because Baladev wrote Govinda Bhasya. So he had Vijay Govinda deities, Radha Krishna deities. The small deity to the left of Krishna in front of Gokulananda, this is the deity of Narottam Das Thakur. You see there's a Lord Chaitanya deity, and that's Narottam Das Thakur's deity. So Narottam Das Thakur worshipped this deity of Lord Chaitanya, and that's on his altar. Notice right here in the middle, there's the Shalagram Shila, Govardhan Shila, that was passed on through Lord Chaitanya generations, and it ended up with Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. And there's nice history of how all of that happened. And I'm not going to narrate all that history. It's nice history. Lord Chaitanya gave the deity, the Govardhan Shila, to Raghunath Das. Raghunath Das carried it with him to stay in Vrindavan. And there's a lineage of how it passed on to Vishwanath. This is just a portrayal to depict the intense devotion that Vishwanath had from his youth for Rupa Goswami, and Rupa Goswami inspired him to write these 3 books. We mentioned those 3 books already when he was just 16. Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Ujjvala Nilamani. In case you don't know what that book is, it's the graduate study of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. It's even more intricate and esoteric and very elevated. And when he was 16, wrote a commentary on it. He understood Rupa Goswami through his writings and had an intimate connection, loving connection with him throughout his life. And then Laghu Bhagavatamrita. There's a composer named Krishna Das who was writing a translation, doesn't say into what language, but from Sanskrit into perhaps Hindi. And he wrote this following verse, having studied this little book that you saw a copy of. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has benedicted the whole world by writing the book Madhurya Kadambini. We read this yesterday, but it's no harm to hear it again. In reality, Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the speaker of this book. He has spoken it through the mouth of Sri Chakravarti. Some people say that Sri Chakravarti Thakur is an incarnation of Srila Rupa Goswami. He is very expert in the art of describing extremely complex truths in an easily understandable manner. And we'll see that shortly, how that's true. O Ocean of Mercy, Sri Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, I'm a grateful, kindly reveal the mystery of your transcendental qualities in my heart. This is my prayer at your lotus feet. So here's an artificial intelligence drawing of Vishwanath when he was a young man. The book itself has some objectives. He, Vishwanath, wanted to establish Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's teachings and that they were firmly rooted in Shruti, Vedanta, traditional text, because he and contemporaries of his time, like Baladev, had encountered those that were scholarly and religious, but accepted truths from the Vedas, these sources, the Shruti, Vedanta, etc. So we're going to find ourselves discussing some of that, particularly Taittiriya Upanishad from the Yajurveda and the references in those texts that establish the foundation of Lord Chaitanya's teachings, because there were some that didn't have that. In that little skinny book, he has done all this. A very capable person. He wanted to increase the appreciation and regard for Rupa Goswami, and of course, through him, his own writings. Better prepared to identify and progressively reach the perfectional stage of bhakti. So we're only going to get, into middle of chapter 3, and there's 6 chapters, and you get higher, and it's like you get dizzy. It's so high, very, very elevated. We're not going to get there at this time. Maybe another time. But bhakti, Shuddha bhakti or prema bhakti is very elevated. And it's the stages to get there. The methodology, he has 3 audiences. And this is an explanation behind why there's all this references to the Upanishads and Vedanta Sutra and so forth and so on. Is because that's one of his audiences. One of the 3 audiences. He has beginners, he has some intermediates, and he has some very advanced persons. So he's simultaneously in this little skinny book addressing, or at least acknowledging, that there's 3 different audiences that may read the book. He wants to make sure that new audiences understand primary points, and he does it like a professor or like a lawyer. Point number 1, point number 2, so he drills on it so it's very clear before he moves on to the next one. He's very systematic, very, very compassionate too, and very knowledgeable, so he can guide. Because just like when we heard this yesterday, when he was a young boy, he as a young Brahmin boy, he did what young Brahmin boys often do. He started a Sanskrit school. So one of the things, by his nature, he wrote a book to make it easier for his Sanskrit students to understand poetry. And one of the key persons that understood poetry very nicely was Kavi Karnapur. So Kavi Karnapur wrote a book on how to write Sanskrit poetry. So he wrote a commentary on his book to help his students understand the teachings of the Goswamis, because it's poetic. You can't understand it without, you can get an idea, but not really the full idea without having an understanding of poetics. Those of you that attended the Gitanagari retreat, you understand what I'm saying, because that point was emphasized several times by Hari Parshad Prabhu, who's, he would recite some Sanskrit teachings and explain, this is understandable if you're a poet. And if you don't understand it, you can understand it literally. But if you're poetic, you can understand it figuratively. So here's both. He's a good teacher too. But so Vishwanath Chakrabarti Thakur, wants to include the super scholarly people, but he also wants to include the new people so that they can understand primary points that are related to rasa and poetry. So he's a gifted personality. And he follows the same style that Jiva Goswami and Rupa Goswami and the other Goswamis of Vrindavan would use. Basically, it's simple. Declaratory statements and then scriptural references that support that declaratory statement. You could say, go the other way around. He knows the scripture, and from the scripture he's derived some very simple distilled points. And in those simple distilled points are the starting point. And then the scriptural references that establish those simple points. And then then looks at it from the other angle and makes another declaratory statement and scriptures to support. That's his methodology. So a comprehensive rendering of the science of the stages of bhakti with supportive references. That's the methodology, the third of the methodology systems. So to put the two together, you get the step by step. He takes us by the hand and takes us on the path leading to understanding bhakti better. Now we're ready for the first part of Madhurya Kadambini. Its translation is a cloud bank of nectar. We'll see Kadambini, cloud bank, and it's nectar from Shraddha to Prema. He's now going to define the title. Madhurya, in the title, means sweetness. There's the illustration at the bottom, where you see that illustration at the bottom, that's Rupa Goswami. According to Ujjvala Nilamani, this word Madhurya is the eternal beauty or charm of all of Sri Hari's activities and gestures. Madhurya, the sweetness, Krishna's sweetness, particularly the sweetness in Vrindavan. Or here's Krishnadas Kaviraj writing, Madhurya, sweetness, is what is the quintessence of his qualities. That's Krishnadas Kaviraj on the right. Very nice, familiar portrait of him writing Chaitanya Charitamrita at a very old age, nearly 100 years of age. Jiva Goswami's definition, this is drawn from Laghu Vaishnava Toshani. Laghu Vaishnava Toshani is a particular commentary on Sanatana Goswami's 10th canto commentary. Here's the history. Sanatana Goswami had a nephew. Nephew means his brother's son. And Jiva Goswami was his nephew. Jiva Goswami was such a scholar that Sanatana Goswami made a request of him. You're such a scholar. Can you proofread my commentary on 10th canto, Vaishnava Toshini, and you make some commentary. You make some corrections if you feel that it needs some corrections. And Jiva Goswami's response was, you don't need someone to comment or correct anything. You're a perfect soul. But because of service, you've asked me, then I'll do that service. So he wrote a commentary on his commentary. That's Jiva Goswami. And the commentary is Lagu. Lagu means light. Lagu Vaishnava Toshini sometimes adds tika. So that's Jiva Goswami's writing, commenting on Sanatana Goswami's commentary, 10th canto, from chapter 12, canto, text 11. His Aishvarya, that's the opulence of Krishna, is his incomparable, infinite, and natural lordship. His Madhurya is his enchanting and natural form of the highest bliss, his pastimes, qualities, and so forth. So that's Bhagavan in his Madhurya feature, according to Jiva Goswami. So all this is in his book, and it's just helping the reader to understand, hit the title of the book. So then he adds to this, according to Rupa Goswami's teachings. Many of you have read Nectar of Devotion. And in Nectar of Devotion, Rupa Goswami identified 64 qualities of the Supreme Lord, 4 of which are exclusively or prominently present in Krishna, in Vrindavan. So there's 4 additional ones to the 60, and they all have Madhurya in the title. Lila Madhurya, especially prominent in Vrindavan. The sweetness of his pastimes, especially his Kishore Krishna childhood pastimes, Vrindavan. Prema Madhurya, the sweetness of loving dealings, especially in Vrindavan. Rupa Madhurya, the sweetness of a superlative, supremely beautiful form. And Venu Madhurya, the sweetness of his flute playing. Some of you that attended the Gitanagari retreat, there was a comment of one of the verses that Hari Parshad had us recite and explain, and it explains in that verse. It notes that Balaram also played flute. Remember that discussion? But he didn't play flute like Krishna played flute, and he's not like always carrying a flute. He was sometimes, but Krishna is particularly gifted. Venu, the sweetness of his flute playing, attracting the hearts and the minds of the gopis, particularly. So, Krishna in his form in Vrindavan. Now here's not from Vishwanath, because this is describing the etymology in English. So the English rendering of Madhurya is sometimes translated as mellifluousness, or sweetness, or loveliness, or exquisite beauty, charm, and so on. I'm not going to read the whole thing. The best word, according to this little passage, the mellifluousness is best translation because in English language, mel is from the Latin word that indicates honey. Latin word mel indicates honey. So Madhurya in Sanskrit comes from madhu, which means honey. So mellifluousness is the best translation. But most people don't use, that's not a commonly used. Bhaktisiddhanta would use words like that. But for the rest of us, it's not so much a common use. So honey-like, or very sweet, etc. The term signifies human-like nature and behavior of Krishna, the Madhurya feature of Krishna. And then comes Kadambini. You see a dark cloud. From a dark cloud comes rain. And from the rain of the dark cloud of bhakti, pouring torrents of sweet nectar, Madhurya, upon the creeper of bhakti. He's just explaining what's the title about. Why did you call this book Madhurya Kadambini? So there's the explanation. Now, one of the documents that you should have received is this one. And if you didn't receive it, you can complain. Anybody didn't receive it? Oh, you all received it. Good. Okay. Because you just have to be on that. Okay. So this is an ISKCON graphic depicting what you see at the bottom is the root of a creeper. And at the top is the blossom of that creeper. And it's the Bhakti Lata, or the creeper of Bhakti, depicted in its 9 different stages. And with real small writing, I've seen this blown up in like a giant size, like as big as your wall, kind of a poster. And then you could read what it says because it's just depicting what's in the book. Of course, you don't have the benefit of the explanation in the book, but it's nice drawing. And as we go along, we're going to look at parts of this image that you see now, this part, that part, that part, as we go through the stages of bhakti. So you get to see it close up. This image you're going to see like 6 times, because this is a graphic that's explaining for those, one of the audiences of Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is people that don't really have much appreciation for Gaudiya Vaishnava teachings, but they have a lot of appreciation for the Upanishads and Vedanta Sutra. For that audience, you'll notice in Bhagavad Gita chapter 13, text number 5. You have to read it carefully. I could read it, but it's going to be coming up because I've done this already. I could read it right from the purport, but what I'm going to say in the following images is right from that purport. It's from Taittiriya Upanishad. From Taittiriya Upanishad, there's a description of 5 stages of realization of Brahman. And it starts way over here. Annamaya, or the absolute truth in food. Anna. So for a newly born infant, not just human, a newly born infant, food, and the realization, because that's life-sustaining. And then as one progresses, as consciousness, you see at the top, stages of consciousness or conscious evolution, one may start to make a little distinction between food and prana, or life symptoms. And then comes knowledge of the Vedic knowledge, Jnanamaya. In this chart, it shows 6, but it's actually 5. But this chart shows 6. Manamaya is in between. Life as the mind. So let's go through what it says. There is a manifestation of the Supreme Lord's energy known as Annamaya, dependence upon food for existence. This is a materialistic realization of the Supreme. So that's the first stage of Brahman realization. And then following that, Pranamaya, the absolute truth is realized beyond food. There's life symptoms or life forms, Pranamaya. It's a stage of evolving consciousness that it may be manifest in the human form of life. Jnanamaya, realization extends beyond living symptoms to, these are functions of the mind, thinking, feeling, willing. So some persons, they live on the platform of the mind, and for such persons, the mind is supreme. That's the capacity limited to the material field. That's why it's in chapter 13. Chapter 13 of Bhagavad Gita, those of you that are familiar with Bhagavad Gita, you know it's Sankhya section. There's 6 questions at the very beginning of chapter 13. And there's 3 combinations of 2, matter and spirit, matter and spirit, matter and spirit. And these 3 are in the realm of matter, or the coverings of the soul. Not yet the soul. Then there's spirit. And that's the next one. Vijnanamaya, in which the living entity's mind and life symptoms are distinguished from the living entity himself. The soul distinct from those lower 3. The 3 are on the field of Prakriti, and number 4 starts in the realm of spirit, the living entity. And then next comes Anandamaya, the all-blissful nature of the Supreme, and our part in the all-blissful nature of the Supreme. So it's the beginning stage is Brahman realization, and then more mature is Bhagavan realization. But it's all in this 5 stages, Brahma Puja Patishtam, found in Taittiriya Upanishad. So what's going on? What's going on is Vishwanath is helping a certain of the 3 audiences to understand the teachings of Lord Chaitanya, which are manifest through Rupa Goswami, are found in Vedanta. Let's go back and take a look at the chart. On the left, that's Taittiriya Upanishad, Brahma Puja Pratishtam. On the right is the same thing. Instead of 5, it's 9. In the same categories. From Jnanamaya, the Shraddha, Sadhusanga, Bhajana Kriya, Vijnanamaya, the middle section of Rupa Goswami's writings, and then the topmost stage, Bhava stage and Prema stage. That's what this chart is doing. This is going to be shown like 4 or 5 times. So get used to it. The idea, I'll say it one more time, it's to help the people who don't have faith in Lord Chaitanya and Lord Chaitanya's teachings to understand the teachings of Lord Chaitanya are rooted in the Vedas. In this case, in particular, the Upanishads and the Yajurveda portion of the Upanishads. That's the purpose for people in that group of his audience. And, Prabhupada does the same thing right in Bhagavad Gita 13.5. Here's another reference. This is not Vishwanath. This is Baladev in Vedanta Sutra 1.1.11. In Taittiriya Upanishad, we find a description of the Anandamaya, Pranamaya, Manamaya, Jnanamaya, and Vijnanamaya stages of existence, after which we find the following statement. This is from his commentary. Higher than the Vijnanamaya stage is the Anandamaya stage of existence. The Anandamaya stage is a person whose head is pleasure, whose right side is joy, whose left side is delight, and whose identity is bliss. The Anandamaya is Brahman. From the Taittiriya Upanishad. So, what's going on? What's going on is helping a certain audience that have faith in the Vedas and don't have faith in, in the teachings of Lord Chaitanya, to see the teachings of Lord Chaitanya rooted in the Vedas, right in Vedanta Sutra. And those of you who were with us yesterday or read that BTG article from a few years ago, that was a challenge by Vaishnavas, by Ramanadis, the northern Sri Vaishnava sect, that had their arms across their chest saying, who are you people? You don't even have a commentary on Vedanta Sutra. We heard this. And then in 6 days, inspired by Govindaji and trained by Vishwanath, he provided it. And that's in his commentary. The teachings of Lord Chaitanya are based upon the teachings of the Vedas, our Atharva Veda. That's the purpose. So one may have a doubt. Some people have doubts. Is the Anandamaya person the individual spirit soul or the supreme soul, the supreme Brahman? Some people have that doubt. The Purvapaksha, the opponent may say, because the Anandamaya is described as a person, it must refer to the conditioned spirit soul residing in a material body. Someone may respond like that. And then Vishwanath responds, no. Vyasadeva answers this in the next sutra. Here's the next sutra. Anandamayo Vyasat, with the definition, or the word for word. The word Anandamaya, or full of bliss, is used in the Vedic literatures, must refer to the Supreme Brahman, for it is used repeatedly to describe him. It's terse. I mean, sutras are terse anyways, like packed. Few words, and what does it mean? So if you have a learned person, they can explain it. This is what it means. So that's similar to what Vishwanath is doing, Baladeva is doing in Vedanta Sutra, trained by Vishwanath. So here's now the 9 stages. Well, we don't have to go through them all just now, because we're going to be going through them as we go forward. There's 3 sections: Sadhana Bhakti, Bhava Bhakti, Prema Bhakti. That's pretty simple. Don't touch it. So now, referring to Srimad Bhagavatam, one Bhagavatam definition of Kanishta, this first of the 3 stages, indicates that the Kanishta has not yet, there's opinions, and some say this and some say that. That's what's going on here. Some say the Kanishta person has not yet associated with devotees. Thus, they're not yet within the realm of bhakti. The chart indicates otherwise, that Rupa Goswami's Adau Shraddha, the 9 stages of bhakti, that person has already, their bhakti has begun. That's in the first of the 9 stages of bhakti. There's some that say otherwise. It's just acknowledging there's this fact. With this above-mentioned definition, Madhyama starts with sadhusanga, continues into bhajana kriya, all the way to the earliest appearance of bhava. So if you're not familiar with these terms, don't worry about it, because it'll become clear as we go forward. It's just, putting a high intensity light on a particular topic. That there's 9 stages of bhakti, according to Rupa Goswami. That's sufficient. Then the uttama is in the upper stages. There's our little chart again. So on the right side, the Anandamaya side, that's these 2, Bhava and Prema, in Rupa Goswami's chart. And the Vijnanamaya is where Anartha Nivritti, one has begun bhajan, but they're not yet very immersed in Anartha Nivritti, will be immersed in Anartha Nivritti by the 6th class. So stay tuned. But that's how far we're going to get. And then as Anartha Nivritti becomes progressive, one may come to the stage of steadiness in bhakti, where anarthas are nearly gone. And then taste, and then attachment. Then bhava and prema. We'll see the chart a couple more times, so don't worry. Chapter 1. Super excellence of bhakti, and it starts with the Mangalacharana. No, in ISKCON we have a Mangalacharana. We have a whole series of verses, Mangalacharana prayers. Like at the beginning of any yajna or ritual or something, we have a whole series of prayers. When there's an initiation, this has an example, we recite Mangalacharana prayers. So it's an invocation verse. And now there's a nice definition of what's an invocation verse, what's a Mangalacharana verse. And here's a description by Krishnadas Kaviraj found in Chaitanya Charitamrita, where he writes, the invocation involves 3 processes, and there's Sanskrit terms for each of these. Define the objective, offering benedictions, and offering obeisances. Here's the Sanskrit term, defining the objective, vastu, nirdesha, benediction, ashivada, and the third is namakarana, offering obeisances. 3. We're going to see this list again. The Sanskrit for these 3. So here's his first, after defining what a Mangalacharana verse, here's his Mangalacharana verse for Madhurya Kadambini. The causeless and completely independent mercy of Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is like a cloud bank of exquisitely sweet nectar that infuses life in the grains of the ninefold bhakti of the devotees, in the devotee's heart, from the very beginning of its appearance, extinguishes the scorching summer heat of material desires, and gives joy to the universal river of living beings. May those nectar clouds, even from afar, refresh me, a dried up tree in the desert. That's his Mangalacharana verse. And so all 3 of these are present. Vastu nirdesha. The Madhurya Kadambini infuses life into the grains of ninefold bhakti in the devotee's heart. That's vastu nirdesha, defining the objective. The benediction, it extinguishes the scorching summer heat of material desires, and, exactly in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's language. Yes? Bhavamaha Davagni Nirvapanam. It extinguishes the scorching summer heat of material desires and gives joy to the universal river of living beings. Benedictions. And then, finally, obeisances, namakarana, unto Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So just as an example, there's a verse, that's the Mangalacharana verse for Rupa Goswami's Vidagdha Madhava, modeled to indicate Vishwanath is a follower of Rupa. He has different language. He has the same 3 elements as Vidagdha Madhava. Here's Rupa Goswami's writing, which is very poetic and beautiful. May the Supreme Lord, who is known as the son of Srimati Sachi Devi, be transcendently situated in the innermost chamber of your heart. That's the benediction. Resplendent with the radiance of molten gold, he has appeared in the age of Kali by his causeless mercy to bestow what has not been made available in a very long time, the most sublime and radiant mellow of devotional service, the mellow of conjugal love. Not only prema bhakti, but madhurya bhakti, conjugal love. So that's a comparison. Then there's two of such verses. One is in Vedanta Madhava, one is unto Krishna, another is unto Lord Chaitanya. But following, I included this. It's not in Vishwanath's writing, but it's a comparison of how he is such a follower. Here's the second of his Mangalacharna verses. Again, modeled after Rupa Goswami. In the previous ages, many great souls took shelter of Bhakti Devi. In this age, however, by the grace of Krishna's dear associate, Rupa Goswami, we have been given the wisdom to realize her in the form of rasa. I, therefore, pay my obeisances unto him constantly. Rupa Goswami. And that's the heart of Vishwanath, and that's in his Mangalacharna prayer, the second of his Mangalacharna prayers. One to Lord Chaitanya, one to Rupa Goswami and Krishna. There's a different translation, because translators do things slightly differently. Others in the past took shelter of devotional service, but it is by the insight provided by the beloved of Hari named Sri Rupa that one can recognize devotional service as rasa. So Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. I offer him my homage constantly. Now, here's a series of verses from different sources, mainly Chaitanya Charitamrita, describing the empowerment that Rupa Goswami received from Lord Chaitanya. And so this is Madhya Lila chapter 19, the first verse of the chapter. Before the creation of the cosmic manifestation, the Lord enlightened the heart of Lord Brahma with the details of the creation and manifested the Vedic knowledge. In exactly the same way, the Lord, being anxious to revive the Vrindavan pastimes of Lord Krishna, impregnated the heart of Rupa Goswami with spiritual potency. Powerful. By this potency, Srila Rupa Goswami could revive the activities of Krishna in Vrindavan, activities almost lost to memory. In this way, he, Rupa, spread Krishna consciousness throughout the world, being empowered by Lord Chaitanya. Impregnated his heart with spiritual potency, the father and son. Later in Madhya Lila, by entering the heart of Rupa Goswami, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu empowered him to ascertain properly the conclusions of all truths. He made him an experienced devotee whose decisions correctly agreed with the verdicts of the disciplic succession. Thus, Sri Rupa Goswami was personally empowered by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. This is a painting of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu instructing him in Prayag. In Antya Lila, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu told Advaita Acharya and Nityananda Prabhu, quote, "You should both show your mercy wholeheartedly to Rupa Goswami. May Rupa Goswami, by your mercy, become so powerful that he will be able to describe the transcendental mellows of devotional service," which he did. And then again in Antya Lila, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to Swarup Damodar, after reading Rupa Goswami's verse written on a palm leaf, put in his thatched roof. Swarup Damodar was amazed to read the writing of Rupa Goswami, and even his handwriting was superlative, what to speak of his message. So Lord Chaitanya said to Swarup Damodar, "Rupa Goswami met me at Prayag. Knowing him to be a suitable person, I naturally bestowed my mercy upon him I thereupon also bestowed upon him my transcendental potency. Now you also should give him instructions. In particular, instruct him in transcendental mellows. He's getting loaded up, Rupa Goswami, by mercy of many, many great personalities. Again, this time, Lord Chaitanya is speaking to all of his associates, having heard passages from the two dramas, Vidagdha Madhava, Lalita Madhava. I met Srila Rupa Goswami at Prayag. He attracted and satisfied me because of his qualities. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu requested all of his personal associates to bless Rupa Goswami so that he might continuously describe the pastimes of Vrindavan, which are full of emotional love of Godhead. Feel pretty convincing, right? Here's the successive generations. This is Narottam Das Thakur in one of his songs, Lavasa Mai. I have heard from the mouths of pure devotees that by the mercy of Sri Rupa Goswami alone, one can attain the lotus feet of Sri Sri Radha and Krishna. So it's a good place to go, right? And certainly Vishwanath was there. Then comes Srinivasacharya, next in his contemporary of Narottam Das Thakur, wrote the Sad Goswami Astaka, and in the first line is being highlighted here, Nana Shastra, Vicharanai Kanipino, Sad Dharma Sanstha. The Goswamis, became very familiar with Nana Shastra, various devotional scriptures, and through them they established the Sadharma Sanstha. Then there's this nice verse. Let's say the verse together. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Tapikam Yena Bhutale Mayam Rupa Padamayam Bhaktisva Padam. When will Srila Rupa Goswami Prabhupada, who has established within this material world the mission to fulfill the desire of Lord Chaitanya, give me shelter under his lotus feet? When we go there, we'll find Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur already there. Then, from Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. These 9 stages of Bhakti originally appeared in 2 verses. Here's the 2 verses. They start Adar Shraddha. Then Sadhu Sangha. Then Bhajana Kriya. Then Anartha Nivritti. Then Nishtha Ruchi. Then Asakti. Then Bhava. Then Prema. That's what the verse says. This is the progression for manifesting prema for those performing sadhana bhakti. That's all of us. And if we follow properly, with proper guidance and so forth and so on, and that this book is meant to guide us along that path, holding Vishwanath holding our hand and walking us along that path, how to get there. Here's the 9 stages. Is that our speakers? We have a sound system problem, not just here, but at the temple too. We're jinxed. Okay. Shraddha. The nice definition of Shraddha, preliminary desire for self-realization. I'll describe what my Shraddha was before I became involved in Krishna consciousness. It's very simple. Very simple. There's a higher reality. Deep in my heart, I know there's a higher reality. There's something more than stuff, than what's going on. There's another reality. Second, I don't know what it is. Good to know you don't know what you don't know. And then the third is I want to know. That was it. It was like a little slogan. What are you doing? Here are these three things I want to find. So the Dao Shraddha, preliminary desire for self-realization. Sadhu Sangha. So Krishna will send a sadhu into your life. And then that sadhu who comes into your life will urge you to gain spiritual knowledge so you understand what turn left or right or where to go and how to get there. And then with the sadhu sangha, you do with sadhus what sadhus do. Bhajana kriya, the regular devotional service under the guidance of a teacher or guru or someone who's guiding you in spiritual life. And this stage of initiation, Prabhupada generally put it in that stage, Bhajana kriya stage. And then comes the anartha nivritti. This is the long stretch. Removal of unwanted desires. It's found, the different language is found in Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 2. That other language is anarthas. There's artha and there's anarthas. Something not wanted, that's subtle somethings within the heart. So the unwanted desires in the heart. Then nishtha, stage 5 is as that anartha stockpile becomes less and less and less, then it takes some superior intelligence to keep going and go further and go further. And then gradually in the stage of nishtha, one becomes steady. And in that stage of steadiness comes some taste, a relish, not just purification. I'm doing it because I know it's good for me. But there's an actual ruchi or taste, hearing, chanting, etc. Due to this nishtha stage having been attained. And then single-minded attachment to devotional service, particularly hearing and chanting, worshipping, etc. And hearing Krishna's pastimes, which then in this asakti stage may appear spontaneously. Sometimes devotees have experienced the curtain pulls back and then closes again. One devotee from China wrote this to me recently. They said they were one day, they were doing the same thing they do every day, but for some reason or another, they didn't see the curtain was drawn back, but they completed their 16 rounds and they just wanted to continue chanting. And they continued chanting for the rest of the day. They had other things to do. We all have other things to do. But it just, the curtain was pulled back and they just chanted and chanted and chanted. And they wrote at the end of the day, it was like, I don't know what happened, but it was wonderful. And then it was like, what's going to happen tomorrow? So sometimes it happens, even in the preliminary stage, this very, very special, spontaneous, not by willing it, but just by Krishna's willing it, it happens. And then there's a stage where that becomes steadily one's consciousness, the asakti stage, which precedes the bhava stage, which precedes the prema stage. So this book covers all of that, and we're only going to go to the beginning parts of the anartha nivritti stage because that's how much we have time for. So look at this. Here's this Brahmaputra Pratishta reference again. And here, there's a reason for bringing this up again. That the reason is this reference establishes that Brahman is the origin of everything, and it's the embodiment of the absolute bliss of the Supreme, referenced here in Bhagavad Gita purport, there's our nice chart again, seeing these same 6 stages on the left and the 9 stages of Rupa Goswami on the right. We'll see y'all tomorrow. Because from this teaching that says Brahman is the basis, then continuing in Taittiriya Upanishad, the Para Brahman is the foundation of Brahman. But we'll see when we get there tomorrow. The teachings of Lord Chaitanya are rooted in the teachings of the Vedas. That's one of the messages, one of the audiences that Vishwanath is addressing. And he does it very simply and effectively and succinctly. And, a thoughtful personality that has knowledge of the Vedas and faith in the Vedas may develop a little faith in the teachings of Lord Chaitanya, and then thus the teachings of Rupa Goswami, and thus understanding rasa, the foundation, because that's also the Taittiriya Upanishad, rasa vaisaha, but that's tomorrow's class. You know the meaning of rasa? Would you like to know?
Yes.
Yeah. Rasa means, it has different English translations. One of the simple ones is juice.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. What's your favorite juice? Apple juice. Mango juice? Apple juice. Okay. And then there's pineapple juice, there's orange juice, there's strawberry juice, there's different flavors. And so rasa, or juice, also has different flavors. And there's 5 primary rasas, and then subdivisions of those 5. You know what those 5 are? Neutrality, servitorship, friendship, parental affection. I don't blame you. And then conjugal rasa, Madhurya rasa. So Shanta rasa, Shanta, neutrality. Servitorship, like Hanuman. Dasya all the way. Serve Ramchandra, that's it. Then friendship, Krishna had friends. He had parents. Vatsalya rasa, parental affection. Vatsalya rasa, the rasa word is there. And then Madhurya rasa, the relationship of the gopis in relation to Krishna. That's a rasa. It's not apple juice, but it's another kind of juice. They like it. And it fits their nature. So Rupa Goswami taught how to see everything in Krishna's pastimes in terms of rasa, and then where do we fit into all of that topic of rasa? A foundation for everyone is service. And then there's service as a friend, and service as a parent, and his parents are serving, and servant as a conjugal lover, but not the selfish enjoyer in service to Krishna kind of a lover, the happiness of Krishna kind of a lover. Different than the worldly kind. The worldly kind is a reflection of the spiritual kind. As above, so below, the teaching says. Okay, so we completed the first part of chapter 1. Tomorrow we'll go on to complete the second part of chapter 1. We're building a little foundation, following Vishwanath Chakrabarti Thakur, who's following Rupa Goswami, who's following Lord Chaitanya, who's following the Vedas. Any comments or questions? Really? Fantastic. Here comes the little microphone.
Sit. Okay.
Yeah, I wanted to ask because I don't know a lot of history about Rupa Goswami. Who really is he?
Who really is he? He's really a intimate associate of Krishna, and he had a role to play in Lord Chaitanya's Leela, but as an intimate relationship with Krishna, he's a one of the intimate associates of Srimati Radharani. He's a conjugal rasa fan. He's an intimate, in the spiritual realm, he's an intimate associate of Srimati Radharani. And in Gaura Leela, he's assisting Lord Chaitanya, who's Krishna himself in the mood of Radharani, he's assisting Lord Chaitanya to distribute knowledge of Krishna through the medium of rasa. Rupa Goswami is a instrument of Lord Chaitanya to give to the world love of Krishna through the medium of devotional service and the rasa of devotional service, the sweetness of devotional service. That's who Rupa Goswami is. And how did he get all of that ability? We heard already so many references. Lord Chaitanya requesting others to benedict him. Give him your mercy. Don't hold back. Give him all your mercy. That's who Rupa Goswami is.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Yeah. Others. Shri Radhika's on the altar, so we're missing her, 6 questions.
She has a question, man.
Oh, she's sending one. Okay.
Very
Go ahead. Sure.
Do the 9 processes of bhakti outlined by Prahlad Maharaj correspond or map in some way with the 9 stages of unfolding of bhakti outlined by Rupa Goswami?
Sure. I mean, Rupa Goswami was a follower of Lord Chaitanya. And we can say this. Let's say it forwards and backwards. The teachings of Lord Chaitanya are the teachings of Srimad Bhagavatam. The teachings of Srimad Bhagavatam are the teachings of Lord Chaitanya. They're inseparable. They're one and the same. So what's in Prahlad Maharaj's description is the Srimad Bhagavatam. And the teachings of Lord Chaitanya is the teachings of Srimad Bhagavatam. And the teachings of Rupa Goswami is the teachings of Lord Chaitanya, which is the teachings of Srimad Bhagavatam. So they're identical. Language may be different, but it's the same. Anyone else? Yeah.
Guru Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. For the benefit of some of the devotees who are fairly new to this process, a question.
I'm listening.
So, yeah, most of our lives are really busy, going around, running around.
Running around, yeah.
And the thing that you shared, how your preliminary faith has brought you here.
Mm-hmm.
So why do we need to, or why do we need to ask ourselves that the question, the desire for self-realization, and how
Because
to
we're not.
develop that?
Because we're not. If you're thirsty, you want some water. If you're hungry, you want some food. And why are you asking for food? I'm hungry. Why ask that question? Because I want to know. Why do you want to know? Because our nature is part and parcel of the Supreme who's all-knowing, and I want to know. I want to feel full. I don't want to feel thirsty and hungry. Natural. It's a natural, from the soul platform, not just from the body platform. Hunger and thirst are from the body. The soul platform is, I want to know. And that I want to know leads to another. I want to love and be loved. That's a need of the soul. But I have to know who I am in order to love and properly. I can, fake it or cosmetically make it appear to be, but what's the real thing? So if I want the real thing. It's just for those who want the real thing. That's why it's important. And that's the human mission. Human form of life has that opportunity to ask such a question. And if one doesn't, it's less than human form of life. Although you've got the body of a human, it's less than human form. Others? Yes.
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj. One appreciation and one question. Your yesterday's class, how you described who Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is. Afterwards, some of us, when we were having prasadam, we were discussing what our takeaways were. And that went even deeper. So today, as I'm reading Srimad Bhagavatam and his commentaries, where it comes up in purport, Vishwanath Chakravarti's commentaries, it just had different meaning because now I felt like I'm able to connect who that person is through your presentation yesterday. So thank you so much. Question that's been I've been thinking about is, we have so much literature that Srila Prabhupada has given us. So sometimes I feel like I don't even know if I have enough time to read Prabhupada's books. So when, I was thinking when can one be maybe ready to read other Acharya's books? Or is, should we read or I'm not sure that.
I got your question.
Yeah.
When a baby starts, it's the mother's milk. And then at some stage, it's pablum. And then at some stage, it's solid food. Now, when is the right time? Well, so, in Vedic culture, there's the right time, the grains, first grain ceremony, and then, where do you go from the first grain ceremony? You go to grains. So, and then there's different types of foods. So that which, an answer, one way to answer your question is it already being answered. That which you can digest, that means you're ready. And some persons can't digest. It's like they get stomachache or they get some illness because they couldn't digest, or they get speculative and start, thising and thating. So then, that's not ready. So what about when another part of your question is, how am I going to just read all of Prabhupada's books? No, he has said, just read Bhagavad Gita. If you can understand this one book, your life is perfect. If you can understand this one book, it's the same as writes in Bhagavad Gita. Purna Janmana. Then Nectar Devotion, same. By understanding this one book, you'll understand everything. So, first canto Bhagavatam. Everything that you need for perfection of life is in first canto. So just read the first canto Bhagavatam, or So, then comes I want to know, because reference is in Bhagavad. Just like this Taittiriya Upanishad, it's in Bhagavad Gita. So, Chandobi is the word that's used in Srimad Bhagavatam, verse number 5 of chapter 13. Chandobi. What's that Chandobi mean? It means various scriptures. And one of them is the Upanishads, and another is Vedanta Sutra, and reference is made to those different literatures. So one may become curious. I want to know what's in those other literatures. And it can be sufficient, depends on the person. Back to your question. Just, I don't need to go through Taittiriya Upanishad. Personally, I don't need to go through that. Some people may have the need to go through that. Does it really say that? Does it, is the reference in Taittiriya Upanishad really say what is being said here, it says there? Some people may need to do that. Personally, I don't need to do that. So if that I want to know, question, and you have the digestion capacity to read and assimilate and digest, then go ahead. But make sure you stay that the foundation stays in place. Don't lose the foundation. Then you're in problem. Got trouble. So your time is limited as a grahasta, this and that and the other thing and the other thing. So you allot some time in your busy life. However you do that, either daily or somehow something, some regular way, in a regulated way, you do. Keeping the foundation. Making sure you keep the foundation. And sometimes for those of us that are Kali Yuga folks, we have to go back and refresh our memory because we forget. I know I read that somewhere, but I can't remember where I read it. That happened in the car ride on the way over here. Somebody was asking something. And I know that I read it, but where did I read it? I can't remember where I read it. Multiple times. So, read it again and read it again. And Prabhupada showed by his example. Many of these biographies of his life, there he was, sitting in his room, reading Bhagavad Gita. Because he was reading it not as, I'm going to acquire some knowledge. He was appreciating, Krishna has dictated this, I was the instrument. And he had that realization. So, anyway, so back to your question. When are we ready? When your digestion capacity permits, then you can. And many of those things that are in the writings of the Acharyas, the essence is in Prabhupada's writings. I'll give one example out of so many. Yesterday, there was a request, so I circulated Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's commentary, Canto 10, Chapter 45, Verse 45. His commentary is like multiple pages long on that one verse. And the one verse is summarized in Krishna book. Chapter 46. Of, what happened. What was the deal? Why is it? How is it possible that Nanda Maharaj, after Krishna killed Kamsa, Nanda Maharaj went back to Vrindavan without Krishna and Balaram? How could Nanda Maharaj do that? How could he do that? He's attached to Krishna. He's more attached in his life is his attachment to Krishna. How could he leave? That's a good question. And then, so a Krishna book gives an answer, and Vishwanath gives a very intricate Vishwanath Chakravarti-esque kind of a detailed analysis of that question. So that's the kind of author he is. So someone may not have the digestion power for all of that. Or even I want to know what was the answer to all of that. But it's there for those that want. And even if I don't want, standing back 35,000 feet up in the air, take a look out the window and see what's down there. Something's down there. is there. So we rest assured our acharyas have covered any question that we may have. And it's rooted in the Bhagavatam. The Bhagavatam is rooted in the Vedas, etc. But as one goes through, then it's not just on a superficial, yeah, I got it. It's I got it. Conviction, unshakable conviction.
So,
Something more.
yeah, so for me, I feel like sometimes I don't have like a intellectual capacity to understand like this high teaching. So I just feel happy reading Prabhupada's books, and so I don't feel the need or like that I want to go deeper. Whatever Prabhupada has given,
that's sufficient.
I feel like that's enough for me.
Fine. Here's another, in response to what you just said, which in my response is that's fine. Prabhupada, on the disappearance day of Bhaktisiddhanta, gave a little biography of his interactions with Bhaktisiddhanta, starting in 1922 when they first met, and then Prabhupada was initiated by Bhaktisiddhanta in 1933. So the math is 11 years later, he was initiated. And by that time, Prabhupada was a business person in Allahabad, because they met in Calcutta, and he received initiation. And Bhaktisiddhanta, Prabhupada says, when I was initiated, the day that he was initiated, Bhaktisiddhanta commented, this young man is very qualified. Although, the many persons come and go, he sits and listens. And Prabhupada said, to be honest, many things that he said I couldn't understand. His language was so high. English language was so high. And the concepts were so subtle, I couldn't understand. But I sat and listened anyways. And I was eager to find out when is he going to speak. And that eagerness to hear, although I may not understand, there's a qualification intrinsic within that. Is it qualification to get the mercy of Bhaktisiddhanta in the form of initiation, but much more than the initiation, the further service that Prabhupada did. So each of us have a nature, and it's not intellectual acumen that's required. And some people have it. Some people don't have it. It's like, because I yesterday made this announcement, and Premanand is confirming, right? March 20th, 2027.
Yes.
Garuda will be coming to town speaking on the Rasa Leela of Krishna and Braj. And who understands that? But we'll hear it, in a way that he doesn't dumb it down, but he's fun and funny and very knowledgeable and very wise, and he has lots of bhakti. He's a happy person, and with very elevated subject matter to share with audiences that are of different levels. So, because of newer people, just like in the room, there's newer people, that's okay. Some of this is a little bit more elevated, that's okay. Just hear with faith, with the right source. The right source is Vishwanath. We can't go wrong. So if you don't understand everything, it's okay. But continue to hear. And then slowly hearing. It's like anything. You don't understand everything right away. In the course of time, it becomes easy from hearing and hearing and hearing. That's our bhakti process, resting upon hearing sound. Okay. Anybody else want to contribute something? And otherwise, we're going to move on. Okay. Very good. Srila Prabhupada ki. Okay.